With the glasses on.
Right? Yeah, we don't want to do that. Hey there, welcome everybody. This is Monday night, so we are having Monday Night Mythbusters. I'm Dr. Carolyn George from Vita Integrative Medicine, and this is Leslie Harrington,
Hey guys.
Transformational Coach. Thank you guys.
Hi,
Hey there, Brian. So while everybody's kind of getting settled in, we want to take time to just kind of let you know that this is something that we generally do every week. I am going to be away for a couple of weeks, and Leslie's going to take over the reins. So she's got some fun things, I think, planned, but we'll fill you in over the week exactly what's going to happen. You know us, we kind of do things, we like to be responsive to our audience, and so we see what things that they're interested in. So we'll let you know what's coming up. But in the meantime, if there is something that you're hearing on our Monday Night Mythbusters that you think other people can enjoy and benefit from, then please feel free to share it. And if you give us some likes, give us some thumbs up on Facebook, on Instagram, any of that social media, that allows the people that run those platforms to push our stuff out more. So the more you like us, the more people get to see us. So yes, so send those hearts, send those thumbs up, but Facebook and Instagram too. So thank you guys.
Definitely helps to get this information out there. And so many people are like, oh darn, I missed it. You know, I didn't get to see it on Monday night. And it does go on YouTube after. So if you see either in your newsletter or you see, or you're not on the newsletter, it's Vita Integrative under YouTube. And you can go back and look at the whole history of all the shows we've been in, which we've got a lot on there now.
We're building
it's probably
it up,
close to a year now, right?
Yeah.
We've been doing this stuff.
Right. So there's quite a few. So feel free, you can become followers. We love followers, because that also is something that they all track. You know, they want to track these numbers. So that just helps us to get the message out to other people so they can learn what they can do to empower themselves.
Hi, Ellen.
So tonight we are going to talk about engaging your senses with aromatherapy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that can be a lot of fun because it's beautiful smells. These are things that everybody kind of really gravitates, I find, to smells. And the thing to understand about smells is that it follows us through our life, right? You can have a smell when you're 30 that will trigger a memory from when you're 5.
Isn't that crazy?
Right? It's really kind of crazy, but that part of our brain really connects to memories. And so it can not only be healing, but it can be
traumatic.
Traumatic and dramatic, both.
Yeah.
All of these things. So smells, like if you ever had mentholatum on your chest as a child, that you smell that smell.
You always think Bengay,
yeah,
right? Whenever I think, I'm like, you smell like a senior.
brings you right back, right? So there are some of those aspects of smell as well. So the smell, just to go back, you know me, I always like to do the biochemistry, the physiology, kind of understanding it a little bit. So the things in plants that make the lovely smells are terpenes. And if you recall, I spoke about terpenes before last week when we were talking about CBD oil, and a lot of the benefits from CBD oil and probably even THC are the terpenes that are in them. So just keep in mind that you can get terpenes in multiple places. That is an oil-based chemical that, or fat-based, that really helps. It goes in through our whole olfactory system and can trigger some different effects. Yes, Sally said Vicks Vapor Rub. Yes, exactly. That's totally my childhood, right?
It's my house at that time.
It was called mentholatum way back in my day. I wouldn't age myself. But those are all things that are really key. And Brian says, smells stop me in my tracks and bring me right back to that time.
It's so powerful,
It
right?
is
You don't really think about
powerful, right? So you can use that to your advantage, because when you were a baby, your parents probably used certain smells to help you get to sleep. Maybe you had a nice smell of lavender in a baby's room. So that smell of lavender can help us get to sleep, especially not only because it works to help relax us, but because we make that mental connection even unconsciously to our childhood. So we can use smells to benefit us as well.
One of the reasons I've always been sort of hesitant with essential oils is because I always felt like there is a lot of really true education to use them, as far as responsibly. And so I was curious about, I've always kind of thought like, oh, the topical and the oral and how do you take them in and things like that, and just making sure that we are understanding what could be dangerous and or what we should probably be doing more because it's so simple and safe. Right, so we're going to dive a little bit into that, but so can we talk about the different ways to use them?
Sure, yeah. So you can use, and I'm talking about essential oils. They can be eaten, they can be put on your skin, they can be sprayed, they can be infused. So there's a lot of different ways to use them. If you're going to eat them,
diffused, right? Too.
And diffused,
that's
too,
the new
yeah.
thing you see. I've gotten like 3 diffusers before for gifts.
Oh yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
What
The
do I do with this
diffusers
thing?
are great.
They're
It
amazing.
puts it, kind of warms it up and humidifies and puts it out into the air.
Yep.
So if you're going to eat something, always make sure it's the edible form. Should be organic and edible because these are plant compounds, right? And so they are generally going to be safe. However, we don't usually eat a whole bunch of petals of flowers or roots or leaves. You know, we're very concentrated.
Yep.
And so they can have negative side effects too if taken into high concentration, whether that's orally or on the skin or sprayed so that you're breathing it in and getting it into your respiratory tract. These are all things you've got to be careful about. So using them as they're, you know, the bottle might say, use it as indicated. Don't, you know, if you've got an aerosolized one, don't drink it because that may not be meant for ingestion. And just being cognizant of the fact that all of these things have potential for hurting you, right? You can be allergic, you can be very sensitive. It can cause, with respiratory things, some people are super sensitive to smells and it can cause them to gag and wheeze. So start off gently and then gradually
See what
increase,
you can tolerate.
see what you can tolerate, but always as the recommendations on the bottle.
Okay, fantastic. And then what are some of the things that it's used for, right? So we talk about essential oils. It's not simply just to make the room smell nice. There's actually a ton of medicinal properties that are helpful for many of the types of conditions that we see in here. Right. Some more, even more serious conditions, and then of course some things that are just preventative.
Right. So you can use essential oils for a variety of things. There are no big studies on these in terms of their impact. It's a lot of anecdotal and kind of carried down through the generations, but it does tend to be relatively consistent in certain areas. So we know, for example, that rosemary can be very calming. Pine can be very uplifting and stimulating. You know, so there's some things that we know. Eucalyptus can clear our lungs if we've got a cold. So there are some things that you kind of see over time that are consistent. So it has, you know, there's a variety of different groups. So, for example, brain fog. If you've got brain fog, very technical term, but if you find that it's hard to think, that you can't manage numbers the way you used to, you can't remember things, it's hard to focus. These are kinds of things that we call. Somebody's giving us all kinds of love. Thank you. If you got that, then pine and rosemary can be really helpful to clear you. And you can actually do that in a tea as well as a cream or a lotion or as a spray. There's a really nice recipe I put out in my last blog for rosemary tea, and you put a little sprig of rosemary in there, and it really hones in and helps you focus.
Flavor,
yeah, it's a nice, but it's focusing. It helps to kind of clear the brain. Yang yang or lang lang, however you like to say that, is really useful for stress. So other things like arthritis. There's a lot of different essential oils people will use for arthritis. Eucalyptus is probably one of the most well known. That's all over your regular drugstores, right? All that stuff with the lidocaine cream and eucalyptus cream, you know, that's your Bengay and things like that. And that really...
Those aren't just for smell. They're
right,
actually intentional.
They're intentional, right? It's not just a smell because it really soaks in and helps to decrease the inflammation in those joints. Rosemary, lavender, curcumin, also very inflammatory. Get different combinations of different essential oils, and they can have, you know, the desired effects. But again, you're always experimenting. Okay, let me try this combination of a few things, right? Don't go crazy and put 10 things in there because then they're going to compete, and you're going to end up with
You don't even know what's working at that
Yeah,
point.
you don't know what's working, and you don't. It's the kind of the equivalent of putting in all the beautiful colors, and you end up with brown, right? So don't do that.
That's a good analogy.
Then we've got some things that are anti-inflammatory. So anti-inflammatory things, as opposed to just for arthritis, they can be useful for people with autoimmune diseases, right? So they can be used in, again, a myriad of different ways, in sprays or creams or lotions. But rosemary is also good. Sage is particularly good. Anise, tea tree oil is also really good as, or it has promising effects as for anti-inflammatory effects. And then turmeric, which we know when we eat it, very anti-inflammatory. You can put that in creams, but it's going to discolor quite a bit. So it's generally, turmeric is usually going to be something more that you drink. You can put that in a tea or a paste. And then sage, I think I said sage, rosemary, oregano can also be used as an anti-inflammatory.
So it's funny to hear some of these because they're kind of like the spices that are in your drawer, right? Yeah. The other one I was always curious about, I always heard so much about, was frankincense, which is kind of like the king of all essential oils. And, you know, there's a lot of, I guess, correlation, no evidence or no, formal studies outside of Petri dishes to show its success with cancer cells and actually ability to kind of promote shrinking of tumors. There's anti-inflammatory, also autoimmune, and immune system boosting.
Mm-hmm. If we got a little blink there, I'm just, we're using my cell phone and somebody's trying to call me, so not good timing. Anyways, so yeah, frankincense can be used, it has been used in cancer care as an adjunct. Now again, no big studies, but really anything that's in your spice cabinet is kind of like little things that are going to help for cancer prevention, cancer care. There are so many super valuable nutrients in the herbs that we really just don't totally understand yet, but they're there. And so using spices, using different herbs, using oregano and thyme and basil and all these things in your food, never mind the aromatherapy, but just using them in your food can be awesome. And then they're concentrated in that aromatherapy form.
Yeah, the frankincense, they say, is also good as a painkiller. Mm-hmm. So I've actually used it topically on my knees before, and like put it on. And then there's ones you can rub on your tummy. So if you have like tummy aches.
Peppermint.
Peppermint was when it was a peppermint, rosemary, and so I'm not really sure.
Right.
I would Google that one. But no, there are actually really, really good books and things that you can see if you want to look at real good recipes and different things, both topical creams, topicals, teas, putting them through, the aromatherapy. So there's tons of different ways that you can use these in kind of your everyday. Why don't we talk about some of the ones that you're carrying here as far as...
Sure. So in my office, I have really found that essential oils can really be helpful, and I use different supplements and things, but people get tired of taking them. And so if there's something I can do where they can spray it on them, rub it on their pulse points on their wrist or their neck, and that it can get absorbed, I like to use that because then they're not taking all the pills. So for example, this one I call Cloud9, and it helps for sleep. And it has in it some bergamot, lavender, and the yang yang, or lang lang, however is the appropriate way to say it. And so these are all USDA organic. I only get organic oils, very highest quality. And they're mixed with a little bit of witch hazel. And the witch hazel helps them to kind of stay in solution so they don't fall out. But you still always generally want to, when you've got a essential oil that's in it's not a really concentrated oil, it's more for a spray, then shake it up a little bit to get it back in solution.
Is there particular areas, like you said, pulse points, and like I know a lot of people do temples, is that like the thickness of the skin or the absorption, or what is
that's
the primary?
That's because your blood vessels are very close to that.
Okay.
And so...
Like so in here even too,
right? Right, even here you could use it. So that's where your blood's closer, so it's going to absorb a little bit more. So that's what I call Cloud9. So that's helpful for sleep and relaxation. But then the opposite, if you want energy. I call it energy. So this has got grapefruit and lemon and cedarwood and mandarin. So it's very citrusy, but with that cedarwood, which is really stabilizing. It's a very nice scent, and that will give you some energy. And then I've got one I like to call brainstorm, because this one you really can start to think. It's when I really want to put on my thinking hat if I have to write something or really think about a tough patient problem. I'll spray a little bit of this, and that kind of gets those thinking juices going. And it has in it the peppermint, the rosemary, and the cedarwood. And so this is another nice oil. Again, always USDA organic.
And these are, you can use both interchangeably as spraying, as a room spray and touching the skin.
Correct, right. So you can put this, for example, you might put your Cloud 9 on your pillow at night, because this is safe to inhale.
Okay.
Okay, so you could spray some in your room, in your pillow. You could put some on your pulse points. Actually, I've got some people who love to spray this on their feet and then do a little massage on their feet. And that's doubly relaxing because you're getting the massage, and then it's soaking this kind of into your skin and giving you the benefit of that.
Yeah, I've done the lavender on the pillow. It does make a difference in your sleep. That's actually one of the recommendations we talk about sleep sanctuary and kind of building new practices in. Lavender is definitely one of the ones that...
If you had to choose one essential oil that could really help relax, and people are usually doing this to help relax, lavender would be number one. It's very, very calming. And then the citruses are very energizing. So those citrus smells, the limonene is the terpene that comes from that. So again, going back to our CBD talk, all these terpenes have different effects.
And then the same thing with the receptors. So we have the terpene receptors.
So we have terpene receptors, yeah.
Okay.
So there is science behind this. Essential oils is not all woo-woo, which a lot of people, my colleagues, think it's just woo-woo, and honestly I did too. Years ago I thought, essential oils, what is that? It's just fragrance. It's just, placebo effect of just convincing themselves that they think about it. But the research is showing that we've got receptors for these things, which is just so cool that we've got receptors for plant compounds.
Yeah, and what in your article you talked about like the blood-brain barrier and the ability for it to cross through, and that's through the inhalation process? Right,
so the inhalation helps a little bit because your nerves for your nose, for your smell, actually the nerves come from your brain and go right into the upper part of your nose here, so they're very direct. So the nerves actually go right from your brain right through what's called the cribriform plate, and so anything that goes through your nose can stimulate your brain directly, kind of bypass all the safety measures that your body has, so that you can really get the best of it. So Marianne says, if I have lavender essential oil, what can I use with it to make it a spray? You might have difficulty. You'd have to find some witch hazel and mix it with a little witch hazel, or possibly a little just rubbing alcohol, but witch hazel is better, because I'm not really a big fan of putting rubbing alcohol all over you. But if you've got that, just take the oil, take a little bit of oil and put it on your pulse point. Just the oil itself. You don't necessarily need to spray it. Or if you can take that oil and put it in a diffuser, then you're going to get it in your room, and then that oil will spread across your room.
And can you mix it with other oils too to help it to?
You could, but you'd have to really know which oils.
Not essential oils, but like coconut oil. I've read like you can use coconut oil as a base. You can use different.
You probably could. It would depend on the quality of the coconut oil, I think.
And then Brian says oregano really helps his sinuses. Very cool. So, and I assume that's something you're putting on as like just inhaling it through what?
So you can do a couple different things. There are oregano oils. You can just buy the oil of oregano and smell it. You can actually make a kind of a paste with it. You can kind of heat it up and put it in like what's the word I'm thinking of, the filter.
The little hot things?
It's a kind of a cloth, cheesecloth. That's what I'm thinking of, a cheesecloth. So you put it in that and you make like a poultice almost of it and smell that. That can be really useful. Yeah,
oil of oregano is super powerful. It's used in a lot of gut type treatments for antifungal and support for...
Very powerful.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you just a little story. So my father, who's 97, fell and hurt himself and had a big swollen leg. And so we made a poultice of this oregano, and it took like bags of oregano. But we heated it up and laid it on, and it took the swelling away. It's
Really?
it can be very powerful. Again, no studies on this, but you see it in action and you go, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And you know, we talk about a lot of things that don't necessarily have the studies that we would like to say yes for sure, but that's partly because there's the funding, you know, and most of the studies you see out there that are really super huge either produce a result that maybe not so true, or they're funded by, you know, either the big food or big pharma, and there's a little bit of motive behind it. So considering, you know, just make sure you're understanding that when you hear something scientific based, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better information than something that you can, you know that have been used for thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, in some cases biblical times. We're talking about frankincense. You know, so things to take seriously, even though, you know, and you talked about the placebo effect, and placebo effect is very powerful, just like the nocebo effect, right? If someone tells you this is going to heal you and people believe it, who cares? If you feel, you know, have at it.
Have at it. It's much cheaper, right? It's cheaper, no side effects, right?
Yeah, and
the
on the
power
flip
of your
side,
body is incredible.
It is actually, and there's you know, a lot of science to prove that the placebo and the nocebo, meaning that people can tell you negative things, and you know, as you take that information in and it becomes your truth, it can produce a bad outcome. So just, you know, understanding that it's been something, again, with me, I was always fearful to use them because I was worried more about the dangers, but understanding more as I go, there's so much safety to them. I've dabbled, you know, I dabble a little bit. You actually sometimes use them and don't really realize that you're using aromatherapy. I do on airplanes and stuff. I'll put them, you know, on my temples and stress. I guess the peppermint one is probably the more energizing. I guess it's probably lavender I always end up with.
Yeah. Lavender is very
So has anyone out there tried or used essential oils, or really have like a practice, or you know, a lot of, you'll see companies that are out there that are the multi-level marketing companies. There's really only two massively big ones that I know of off the top. Just again, be careful of where you're sourcing this stuff. So the organic is important, and it's a big deal. You could see essential oils, you know, at Walmart, you know, may not be the same as the essential oils that you're seeing at Whole Foods, or, you know, somewhere that's going to be really certifying their stuff. And
that's really important, right? So we tend to go, okay, well, it's cheaper, what's the difference? But it's going to go into your body, okay? Your skin is a wonderful delivery surface for medications.
It's your largest organ as well.
It is your largest organ, and that's really how we can really apply. A lot of medicines are now done through creams. So don't be fooled to just get the junky stuff and just think, okay, well, you know, it's cheaper and there's no real difference, so I might as well do that. Well, there is. So there can be all kinds of other chemicals. They can put in some parabens. They can have extracted it in a way that's unsafe, so you get chemicals in it. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done.
Yeah, the processing alone.
Processing it is key, and we didn't want to get into that because that's like, you know, an hour's worth conversation.
Yeah,
but
each one.
Yeah, so there's different ways of processing it, and some much healthier than others. And so that's why when they're organic and you are paying more, generally it's because it's a better quality.
Yeah, and the reason that they do a lot of topicals and compounding and things like that now is it's essentially going through your skin and into your bloodstream. So you're bypassing the digestive process. So if, for instance, if these were like, oh, take an essential oil pill, you could swallow this pill and maybe not so much absorb some of it if your digestion's not right, or you're not able to really super take in these nutrients. So if you think about how powerful that can be, knowing that the absorption through your skin is going to be almost guaranteed, right? Yeah, and you're not going through some of the processes that it takes to convert it and get it to, and get into your bloodstream.
Yeah, so all important things. So yeah, looks like no big questions about the essential oils tonight. So if you think of any, then feel free to shout it out, send us a message. We're happy to tell you if you've got a certain issue. We can tell you what people have used. Again, no guarantees that it will work for you, but always relatively easy thing to try and see if it's something that benefits you.
I've heard a lot about it too for brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, inhalation. Like parents smuggling it into the hospital,
well, yeah, it may be that that primal reflex we talked about at the beginning is how you just get that connection right away. So that might be snapping them out of
Stimulating brain cells,
stimulating
right?
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Very interesting stuff.
It's an evolution, guys. There are so many things that contribute to health and wellness. And, you know, if you were to sit and do everything that there is out there to do from day one, it would take a lifetime to really learn and
You'd
implement.
never work.
Yeah, so it's a matter of doing the best you can to put in the good and pull out the bad. So the more things that you're doing to set yourself up to be living in a good environment inside your body, the better, you know. So this is some stuff too that's just enjoyable. You know, just sitting in a room, it's like lighting a candle that has a beautiful scent. You know,
Right.
same thing except in a little healthier way than most traditional candles.
Yeah. And two little things that I forgot to say that I wanted to say. So clove, very good for your teeth. If you have a toothache, yeah, clove can be really good. You can apply it to where the toothache is, just on your finger or Q-tip. If you've got the oil, not the spray, but the oil, because you want it more concentrated, apply it to an area of a bad toothache. So that's one good thing. And clove is also really useful if you've got very itchy skin. So it can sometimes help with that piece. And then tea tree oil, I kind of mentioned it in terms of its anti-inflammatory action, but it's also an antiseptic. So you'll see this often in shampoos and things like that. But
Skin too.
Yeah, so it's good for really dry scalp, dry skin. So that's a big benefit. And it can help if you've got bad breath.
Really?
Yeah.
So orally.
Yeah. So you can put it like in a mouthwash.
Yeah, they make some like breath sprays from it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
these are other little uses, and again, as you kind of go through life, you're going to find other little uses for different other essential oils. But there's lots of good stuff out there. Check it out, and please let us know what you've tried, what you find works, and then we'll pass it on to people.
Yes. Thanks, guys, for coming out.
Thank you, guys, and again, remember next week it's going to be Leslie, so please give her support, show up, and I'll be back. I'm going to be on vacation for a little bit, so when I come back, I'll be looking forward to hearing all those wonderful responses to Leslie's talk.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, please share and give us the thumbs up on Facebook, and give us follow us wherever you can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.